Hey, everybody. Before we start this episode, we wanted to take a minute to stop and discuss what's happening here in the United States. The racial injustice in this country needs to change, and it's going to take all of us to make it happen.
So we really just wanted to stop, echo the words of Adult Swim, and so many others out there. They have better words than we do a lot of times, and instead of co-opting their words and trying to make them our own, we'll just say what they say. And we stand with our Black colleagues, talent, storytellers, and fans. Your words matter to us, and we are listening. So wherever you are, whoever you are, Black Lives Matter, and we are standing with you.
All right, now we're going to talk about cartoons.
Yeah. Good segue. Now let's record a podcast. By the way, I got a Twilight Zone in the background because Rod Serling is a beast.
Roll that intro, Brandon.
Oh, yeah, I guess I got to switch. It. Boom. Look at that.
You asked for it. Here it is. It's a podcast from Apathetic Enthusiasm.
Coming to you live from serialized storytelling saved for the end of the season. Sure, things could have been different for the story train, but what we got is fantastic. And holy shit, it's our 100th episode, motherfuckers. It's Interdimensional RSS, the unofficial Rick and Morty podcast. 100 years. 100 episodes.
100 years, 100 episodes. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Interdimensional RSS. I'm Travis.
And I'm Brandon. Oops, I took a drink.
Took a drink at your first line. You crushed it with that intro. It was spirited. It was spirited, my friend. Yeah, we got a finale to talk about. We got a lot of things going on. There's so much to discuss. We want to hop right into it, but as we do with all of our episodes, we gotta get that housekeeping out of the way. So let's inform you very quickly on how you can contact the show. We're ending yet another season, so you're between seasons. You're trying to figure out, hey, what are those Rick and Morty podcast guys up to? Here is how you can find out. Head over to twitter.com/Rick and Morty pod. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Rick and Morty podcast, or send us an email, rickandmortypodcast@gmail.com. All fantastic ways to let us know what you're thinking and what you're thinking about the show. You can also follow along with our escapades on the web, rickandmortypodcast.reddit.com or rickandmorty.reddit.com for those post-show and during show discussions that Brandon loves to post out there and pin those posts. That's a lot of plosive P's right there. And of course, you can get everything that this podcast has to offer over at rickandmortypod.com. We are currently streaming live right now over at youtube.com/apatheticenthusiasm or over at twitch.tv/apatheticenthusiasm. And of course, you can get shirts. You can get that merch, including the old school logo, and the Unity shirt is back. If you are a member of Unity and you want to represent, head over to tpublic.com/store/interdimensional RSS, or just go to apatheticenthusiasm.com/shop, and you can go to our curated collection of Rick and Morty shirts, including Interdimensional RSS shirts.
Head on over before Turner takes us back down.
Yeah, before we get those taken down again. Yeah, Curry, run, don't walk to get that merch. Finally, a huge thank you to everyone at patreon.com/Rick and Morty pod for your continued support of the podcast and everything that you guys do to help us out. It is a show of shows. Brandon, are you ready? I don't know if you're ready. Are you ready?
Am I ready? I don't know if I'm ready, but I'll try to be.
We're gonna try, and we're gonna try with some semi-pertinent news.
Wake up in the morning and you're drinking some coffee. Then you walk down the street. Then you slap your knee. You see a car drive by. You say, "Hey, you! It's semi-pertinent news for you." Yes, indeed, you do. Ha! Semi-doo-doo. Scoop-a-doo-doo-doo.
Slap-a-doop-a-doo. Brandon, we've only mentioned it like 8 times already. But anything out of the ordinary going on with this episode?
Well, let's get this minor bit of housekeeping out of the way. You did your housekeeping. I'll do my housekeeping, which is promoting our 100th episode. This is it.
This is it. We're done. No more podcasts after this. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Holy shit. 100 episodes. In the podcasting world, especially among indie podcasters, a lot of people say there's milestones. And we talked about this before here in Apathetic Enthusiasm. We say, hey, 5 episodes, you're doing all right. If you get to 20, then you're gonna last a lot longer. But if you make it to Hundy, then you're done. You might as well quit.
The Hundy and your Dundee. Get out while you're on top. No, that is definitely that we're gonna freak people out, Brandon. We're definitely not quitting. We're not stopping. In fact, even though the show is over, I mean the show's not over, the season's over. We're gonna be back next week. We have to do a season recap. We got lots more things to talk about. So Interdimensional RSS is not going anywhere. We've got at least 60 more episodes to cover.
At least. But so next week, that was what that episode is going to be about. That episode is going to be our season 4 recap, which will cover all 10 of the amazing episodes, including the one we're going to talk about later. But we're also going to do a little bit of like a clip show. It won't be a clip show. In the things, but
remember the time we went to Hawaii, Brandon, and then it all goes.
Yeah, Interdimensional RSS. Oh my God, that's the name of the show. What we're gonna do is what we've been on the air for 100 episodes. More than that, if we include an unpaid bonus episode for Inside Jaws from Wondery, who continues to go.
We promised we'd never bring their name up again.
They continue to ghost us. I keep sending emails. I want that $30 that they owe us. Only $30, but
you gotta be professional now, Brandon. We're professional podcasters. You gotta be a good steward.
That's right. But 100, which means we've done well over we've done 50 more episodes at least than Rick and Morty's actually been on the air. We've done interviews, we've done character studies, we've ranted about how shitty McDonald's is. It's been fun. So next week we'll celebrate a little bit of that, and we want to take you with us on that journey. Our plan is to give out some minor tokens of appreciation to you, Unity, for listening. All you need to do, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter at Rick and Morty Pod, Instagram Rick and Morty Podcast. We'll put some poll questions out there. All you need to do is retweet or respond to those with your answers to the poll questions, and send a retweet with hashtag Rick and Morty Podcast and 100 years, 100 episodes.
Ooh, custom hashtag. So cool. So 2006. All right. Yeah. Enough about us. Let's talk about other things that are happening in the semi-pertinent worlds. To include something that we haven't talked about in several weeks because we've had actual episodes to discuss, but that is comics. What is up, Brandon, in the comic world?
Oh, over in the comic world. And this is, how apropos is this, Travis?
Complete coincidence. Absolute coincidence. I'm sure of it.
Oni Press has announced that they are coming out with Rick and Morty Presents Birdperson this July. It's written by Alex Firer and drawn by Fred Stressing. Alex Firer, who reached out to, and if all goes well, we might get him and the other folks on an episode to talk to us about it. Which, by the way, Alex knows one of my friends from high school. So, hey,
weird. Who knew? Small world
after all. But it's all about Birdperson's rite of passage, him growing from a Birdteen to a Birdadult, and a friend to Rick Sanchez. So that's coming out. Excited about that. Don't need to talk anymore.
Gotta love that expanded backstory that exists only in comic history. It's good.
It's good. Star Wars.
It's like a Star Wars. It's like a Star Wars. Exactly, Brandon. Finally, in music news, if you've already watched the finale, which I sure hope you have, if you're listening to this podcast, because we're gonna chew it up and spit it out. You have already heard the song "Don't Look Back," featuring Kotomi and friend of the podcast Ryan Elder. But that song is available right now over on Spotify. You don't got to wait a week. You don't got to wait a day. You can download it, listen to it, stream it, whatever you do. It's out there on Spotify. You could probably find it on some other streaming platforms, possibly, if you're into that sort of thing. But I've listened to it several times. I told Brandon this song is a bop, and he told me to get that Gen Z nonsense out of here.
That's how that went.
I said, "Okay, boomer," and then we fought for a half hour.
Yeah, you said it's a bop, and I said, "The fuck is that?"
And I said, "That's what them Gen Z kids are calling a cool song."
And I said, "Okay, you're almost 40. Grow up already."
Yeah,
Boom.
yeah,
Boom.
yeah. I'm old. And then I listened to an Oasis song right after that, and I was like, "That's right. That's how old I am."
Yeah.
But yeah, Don't Look Back. That's the song. It's great. It's a terrific song. I absolutely love it. It's the anthem of the summer, I think, Brandon. I think that's
Don't Look Back. Man, I love how Noel and Liam Gallagher came back to make that song for Rick and Morty. But you know who else does things?
Who does things, Brandon?
A little guy in a little minute. Put them together. You got the Dan Harmon Social Media Minute.
Dan Harmon on the social internet. Dan Harmon, he's making Instagram posts. So this is the Dan Harmon Social Media Minute. Dan is staying home. You know, COVID is still out there. It's still lurking. And he apparently is spending plenty of time at home in the workshop. For those of you that have not been following along, Dan has pretty much created an entire woodworking oasis in his garage. And now you get to potentially share in on some of the fun with his latest post. The caption is just "successful test." But this is his workshop upgrade that now has a video feed. And as you look at the post, you'll get to see a time lapse of Dan working. You can watch him clean up after himself. There's weird angles. There's sawdust, all sorts of things. No audio yet, but he definitely has multiple camera angles set up for your viewing pleasure. So yeah, if you want to see what Dan Harmon is up to, check out his Instagram and potentially, eventually, I don't know, maybe you think he'll get in on this Twitch game, Brandon? You think he'll start?
I think that's next. I think that's next on. Then we're gonna have to switch this to the Dan Harmon Twitch.
The Twitch minute. We'll raid his streams. That's what we'll do.
Live. We'll raid his streams live.
Yeah, and then you guys have to go use our custom emotes on his stream, because we got all of the cool subscribers here on Twitch. A little editor's note, there's definitely a comment from the Sixler, also known as Spencer Crittenden, who asks if it was intentional whether or not his 2-part workbench looks like a crafting table from Minecraft. It was definitely intentional that he made. He even called it a crafting table when he built it. But yeah, that's your social media minute. That's Dan Harmon over on Instagram. You know, co-creator and voice actor on Rick and Morty.
Yeah, voice actor. He's such range. But you know, that's great. Thank you for bringing up that Dan Harmon Social Media Minute, Travis. I know our hardcore podcast listeners just they clamor for that.
I know they're waiting constantly for it at all times. Yeah. You know, but you know, Travis, we're doing something a little bit different for our podcast listeners.
Let's see what else is on.
All right, hold on. Let me change the channel.
Hey, Travis, have you ever wondered what it would be like to have Rick's portal gun?
I have one, actually. It's right here.
Exactly. I wondered too. You know, I want to go to a place where chairs sit on humans, where 1 in 10 people are unaware cyborgs, or where werewolves exist.
Dude, I know exactly where you can flesh out those fantasies.
Sure. Is it a portal gun?
Nah, bruh. It's a game called Forks in the Timeline, where you have the chance to open some of the many doors of the multiverse. The game has 100 cards presenting alternate realities and 100 random questions for thousands of different combinations. Pair them together, challenge your friends, and come up with the best possible answer. Whether you're a scientist, history buff, or native Klingon speaker, there is a timeline for you.
Oh, so that means there's a timeline where we're the official Rick and Morty podcast. And if that's the case, what does a pound of brie cheese cost? I've always wondered that. I've always wanted an answer to it.
I don't know. Offhand, I'd say like $20.
Sounds good. And you know what? At that price, with all that spare cheese, people can go to www.forksinthe.timeline.com/store, order the game using the promo code Rick and Morty, and enjoy exploring their own timelines.
Brandon, I just looked it up, and brie cheese does cost $20. Does that mean we are the official Rick and Morty podcast?
You know, we don't need to talk about that right now. Let's get back to the show.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if I want to watch that every week. All right, Brandon, without any further ado, it is time for the main thing.
When you make a steak on the grill, you got to get the sear marks, yeah. You got to get the grill lines, sprinkle of salt, maybe some Worcestershire sauce. Then once you do that, then you add some asparagus. That's not the main thing. The steak is the main thing, and this is the main thing.
That broke down. I didn't know where it was going.
That was beautiful, Brandon. That was beautiful. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the main thing, the part of the show where we talk about why you're here, and that is Rick and Morty, episode 10, season 4, Star Mort, Rickturn of the Jerri. Brandon.
Oh, man.
That episode, though, right?
Let's talk about it for a second. It was good.
Yeah, it was all right. All right, let's get into listener suggestions, short outs. No, just kidding. Yeah, so this episode, if you're listening sometime in the near or distant future, this episode aired on May 31st, 2020, written by Anne Lane. Or is it Annie?
Yep.
Annie?
She goes by both. Annie and
Andy. And directed by Erica Hayes, of course. The bronopsis for this episode: parenting is crazy, bruh. Stuff straight disappearing in this one. But what was our synopsis for this one, Brandon?
I last night on the subreddit, I always put a synopsis because I never have the official bronopsis on hand, so I come up with a synopsis once the episode airs. And so I'm just going to use Reddit's from last night, which is I modified it slightly after our conversation. I wrote, "Don't look back in anger. Double vision," and then I added, "What's the matter with parents today?" There's a whole arc here. That's the synopsis. Now for observant listeners, those are 3 different songs by 3 different bands. Oasis, who we covered. Double Vision by Foreigner, and What's the Matter with Parents Today by NoFX, off the Pump Up the Valium album. Anyways, let's not talk about that.
Some deep cuts, some deep cuts in that one. So yeah, what did you guys think? If you guys have thoughts in the chat, go ahead and throw them out there. But we watched this live together last night. We did a very brief post-show chat about it, but yeah, let's talk about serialization. Let's talk about parenting. Let's talk parenting. Second week in a row that it was really almost a consistent theme in this one. Not just the parenting of Morty and Summer, but also Rick's parenting style with Beth. What was your biggest takeaway from this episode?
I thought it was such a interesting to have those themes so close together, but have them be slightly different, right? You almost need to have these episodes right next to each other to highlight those differences. And we talked last week about the ABCs of Beth briefly. Oh my gosh, my light changed. It's even more red in here. ABCs of Beth, very very briefly. Talk about him being a father in that one and being a father, and then him relating more towards Beth in the previous episode. And now we see that all of that is essentially undone, right? It's in a way, a lot of that is undone because his past has caught up with him. And I think it's interesting. Like my son, like you get to these points in when you're a parent, and you're like, the kid will ask me like, "Can I stay up 2 extra hours?" And I'll be like, "Do I want to let him stay up 2 extra hours? Should I or shouldn't I?"
What are the stakes here? What's in it for him? What's in it for me?
Exactly. And that's really kind of what it boils down to in this episode. And in like the behind the scenes stuff with Harmon and Ann Lane, they talk about, it's just a really selfish, like he doesn't want to have to make a decision as a parent. He wants, it's selfish because he wants the best of both things.
Yeah.
And the question she asks him is, she asks him to make a decision, like what does he want for her, and I think that's what makes him the bad parent, I guess. But what do you think?
Do you think that her asking that question, which we did not see a season ago, that it was left up to him, right? That addition, that flashback, if you will, what were your thoughts on that? Like, do you think if they had left that in a year ago, or well, I guess 3 years now, like however long ago we saw that episode for the first time, do you think that we would have thought about the situation differently? Do you think, because really the big question for the last few years is Beth a clone? Did it happen at all? And I wonder if, knowing that Beth left it up to Rick, if that would have changed our assumptions about whether or not it happened.
Yeah. There's no way for me to know unless you had cloned me back then, and
which I did. Let's bring him out.
No. How do I feel about that? Does it matter?
Doesn't matter. I want to jump around in our show notes a little bit because we're talking about Beth, we're talking about clones, and really this is as Sire Dark in the chat mentioned, fan service the episode. This is something the fans have been really interested in and trying to figure out for a long time. What is going on with the Beth clone situation? And right from the get-go in this episode, we see one version of Beth out living her best space life as the lead of the Defiance, and we know that there is a clone out there because then you cut to the other Beth, who is at home around the breakfast table with the family as always. And planning the day. So what was, like, were you stunned? Were you surprised? Were you like, yep, makes sense? With the reveal that there is in fact a clone, and one of them is out in space getting into all sorts of sci-fi, hijinks.
I don't know. I mean, the opening with her immediately in space, like, okay, all right. It reminded me kind of some of the comics, the post-apocalyptic stuff in the comics that they have. But then as soon as I saw, the family, around the table, I'm like, oh, okay, all right, we're well, they also mentioned the clone stuff in the intro too. So I wasn't necessarily surprised, but I was like, oh, okay, all right, they're bringing that back. They're taking stuff from previous episodes for this episode. Let's see where it goes from here. And almost immediately with the Grompholites, and again we're jumping around, then I was like, oh, they're going to tie it to that in some way, shape, or form. That's really interesting. What about you? Like, what was your stance on that?
It was good to see. I'm glad they revisited it, because I would hate for the show to do something at the end of season 3 where they're like, they bring up this question, is Beth a clone? And then never address it, which is sort of the way that the majority of the season felt, where, I mean, I think there were mentions about it. There were little like offhand remarks, but it really wasn't called out as a big topic. And for them to just come right out at the end of this season and be like, all right, here's the clone. He did it. It happened, and here is sort of the fallout of that scenario. I thought it was good. It opens up a lot of questions for where the show can go moving forward. And it's interesting that throughout this episode, we didn't get a clear answer about which one is, in fact, the clone versus which one is the original Beth. But I'm kind of not sure it matters. What do you think? Do you think it matters at all?
Homar, my coworker, he asked me that earlier today, and he said, yeah, but I just wish they would have said who's the clone. And I'm paraphrasing. He probably didn't say that at all. But I kind of not scoffed, but like instantly stepped back and said, it doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't matter to me which one is a clone. Because although we're saying clone, right? There is a split, not necessarily timeline, but it's the same way we have infinite dimensions in Rick and Morty. You have alternate versions of these characters all over the place. So although we're talking about clones here, what is a clone except just another version of you with all those same experiences? And so the moment that he makes a clone of Beth, that is just an alternate version of Beth. She has the same history, the same past, all of that stuff still exists. So she is the same person. And because she's the same person, when she makes that split, all she's doing is he says he's a shitty parent, but he's allowed her to have all the things she wants, just in a different way. So yeah, to me it doesn't matter. What matters is that she has reconciled that with herself, that it doesn't matter if I'm a clone, because I'm Beth Smith, and I'm either a badass space warrior or I'm a badass mother.
Well, and really the reality is she's both, right? Like they both come from that same stock, that same shared experience. Rick even calls it out when Space Beth is saying like, why is she back with Jerri? And Rick's like, that's on you. Like, you made that choice, right? I didn't do that. And so yeah, it is interesting to sort of have that sliding doors sort of scenario where you get to see what would happen in both cases, and then both of those cases get to exist at the same time. So now we get into the first look at how two Beths are better than one, and both of them get to work together throughout this episode to fight and escape and help Rick and help the family out, and eventually at the end really kind of co-parent Morty and Summer. What do you think about this potential of the family dynamic next season being two Beths and a Jerri with the Smith kids?
Well, yeah, I mean, what do you think? I think I at one of the I think it was Tampa Bay Comic Con, that question came up about, you know, the clones, and and my answer was something along the lines of, I think it's cooler to see what that dynamic is for them to meet up again, and in what that actually does. I don't know what the answer is, but I do think that it allows the show to go and explore different things, and it won't get caught in the same rut. It's built something within the foundation of the show that it can do different things moving forward.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of cool potential for Space Beth, which is what the name I've coined for calling her. Space Beth and Rick kind of going out and almost like buddy adventuring, potentially. I'm sure there's gonna be some sort of parenting dispute where Space Beth thinks about a situation one way and Earth Beth thinks about it a different way, or something. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's really neat. I think that the way that it was resolved, as far as it has been resolved, was really interesting. I also think that the conflict that Rick feels, that the fact that Morty's mind blowers himself to remove the memory of who the actual Beth is, and the fact that he couldn't even look or make the decision for himself, that he had to create some sort of sci-fi robot to 3-card Monty the two Beths, right?
Yeah.
It shows his sort of his inability to deal with the gravity of that family situation, and it is one of the shortcomings that Rick has. A lot of times fans like to think that Rick is unstoppable, that Rick is capable of anything. And in a lot of cases that's true, but when it comes to wrestling with his own thoughts and feelings and emotions and the family dynamic, that is definitely a spot where he struggles. And I think that's very apparent at the end of this episode, throughout the episode, but especially at the end.
Yeah, you talk about that, and I think it brings up a point. Harmon mentions that this whole he is unable to make a decision about the welfare of his daughter is like he says specifically, like it's like just this great Greek tragedy type of thing. And in Greek tragedy, Oedipus, they talk about the fatal flaw of characters. Harmon really big on the story and classic storytelling. That those types of connections, his inability to make decisions, or could be considered as fatal flaw. I don't know. There's still 6 seasons to go. So
Yeah, at
but
least.
I did want to mention one thing also about the two Beths, again talking about parenting and the clone. I'm going to go back to it every once in a while. The lifelong question of nature versus nurture. They were the same person up to that point in time. The whole nature / nurture thing, and then their experiences shifted when they're talking to when they first meet up, and there's that real brief exchange about, oh, naive and beautiful, oh, cynical and sexy, or whatever,
Yeah, and hot or whatever.
Yeah.
They're both still flattering each other, but yeah, highlighting those differences.
Yeah. Anyway, so I thought that was really, really cool too.
Yeah.
What else had on there? You talked about the family shifts, the potential shifts. Maybe two Beths are better than one. I wrote here Rick's nihilism making things worse, and we're talking about his inability to make a decision, or do want to get into things. And he mentions it a few times. One, when he's in Shoney's with Space Beth. We won't call her Clone Beth, much as Pocket Morty's likes to call her. Space Beth, about you're going through your hero phase. You'll grow out of that. And then later, when Tammy tells him that we don't need you, all you have to do is, you don't do anything.
Yeah, he's just comfortable now, right?
Yeah. So what do you think about that? There's a bunch of stuff where you just, you know what, if as long as I'm left alone and things are going right as rain, then I don't have to do anything.
I think there's some truth to it, but some of the epic consequences that have taken place in the show so far are evidence of the fact that he has his breaking points. And sometimes the things that we think would push Rick over the edge really don't even affect him, because he can deal with them easily with whatever sci-fi gadget he's got on him. But it's often those things that mess with where he is vulnerable, whether it's the family dynamic, the things, disappointing his family, not living up to be the person that he wants them to believe that he is, that when he's like, all right, I'm going to go turn myself in and completely destroy the Galactic Federation and the Temple of Ricks, at the same time, or I'm going to go and, blow up this colony or fight all these people.
Yeah.
Like, it's most of the time he's happy just like, hey, let me go find these space rocks, and hopefully it all pans out. If not, there's a vat of acid for that. But like, he is relatively low threat. He wants to go on adventures with his grandson, but it's usually for some self-benefiting reason, and not because he's out trying to right the wrongs of the galaxy, which is exactly what Space Beth is trying to do with her defiance against the new Galactic Federation.
The new, what really this theme of she hates her father. Space Beth does. She hates her father. Or mother, regular Earth Beth says, "Oh, that's why your cosplays are shitty 30-year-old version of our father," right? And then at the very beginning of the episode, you have Squanchette, you have you have like a K Michelle. See what I did there?
Oh, nice, yeah.
You have what looks like to be like a version of TikTok from Return to Oz with Veruza Ball. Okay. And then like an Ahsoka from Star Wars Rebels, but Clone Wars. Sorry, excuse me. But like, she's fighting the Gromphlomites. What she has chosen to mirror her father's lifestyle, both with the people she keeps company with and the foe that she ultimately chooses to fight. Right. Yeah. And then this is going to lead us into the Star Wars discussion completely, because guess who they fight in the second Star Wars trilogy? A new version of their fathers, or their, the ancestors.
Yeah, the Empire. And obviously from straight up from the title with Star Mort Rickturn of the Jerri, we knew we were going to get into some sort of Star Wars conversation. We weren't sure exactly how deep the parody would go, but there are a lot of similarities. I highlighted a few of them. Obviously, we've talked about the Defiance, which is basically like the rebellion in Star Wars. That new Galactic Federation has that First Order / Final Order vibe. The new Gromphlomites. By the way, they're back. Are you happy to see them back? I'm happy to see them back.
Yeah, I love those guys. I was kind of sad when they seemed to be all but destroyed.
Yeah, and doing it in that sort of mocking of how they brought back stormtroopers and all that, even though the Empire's gone in Star Wars, by just saying they're the new Galactic Federation. Like, I thought it was great. I thought it was a great way to do it and allow it to exist within the show and bring back those characters.
Yeah, exactly. The single failure in the Death Star, when they're doing that advertisement for the planet killing machine, the KC, whatever it was.
Yeah, brought to you by Wrangler Jeans.
Brought to you by Wrangler Jeans. It's just so on the nose with being like, our foes dislike it, but our God dang it, I wish I had to take an audio clip of that commercial. It's so great. A nod to the force powers with Morty's invisibility inside the park.
Yeah. Summer holding up that fire extinguisher. Can you like crush our hearts and stuff? Yeah, sure, I can. We surrender then. We surrender. That's
when they initially think that they're like questioning if he can use telekinesis. Then he's like, "Oh yeah," and then he turns to the and just like half-asses his hands.
Yeah. No, that was great. I don't know. I think they straight up mention Death Stars and different things, but there's also the return of some epic characters, sort of like seeing Darth Vader in the first Star Wars movie, A New Hope, and some of the reveals to some of these epic fight scenes. I think about in what was it, The Last Skywalker, the
Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, which the last one or the second one?
The eighth one.
Oh, yeah, that's The Last Jedi.
Yeah, Last Jedi, when they're in Snoke's like throne room, and then they have that epic fight sequence in the throne room. Well, this time, the return of an old friend, good old BP is back on the scene.
It's PP now.
It's PP.
When you saw Tammy, and when we talked about this as we're watching the show, like on the commercial break, like of course they got to bring Birdperson back too, right? Like they have to. Had
to. They were an item, and the last that we saw of them, story train episodes aside, they flew off together. And so yeah, I as soon as I saw Tammy, I was like, he's got to be back. He's got to be in this episode.
Yeah, and it weren't sure in what capacity quite yet. And my fear for the episode was, are they going to, like, that'll be either the stinger, the post-credit stinger, or that'll be like the cliffhanger leading into season 5. That was my other kind of worry. I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they gave us just this epic fight between two former friends,
two brothers, if you will.
Two brothers. It's like if we got into like a fight. Like I've always wondered what it'd be like who would win in a fight.
Yeah, and that's what makes you an awful friend.
But that fight was so badass. I appreciated it the first time I watched it. The second and third time, just all the better. All the better.
Some of those cutaways, some of the inventive ways that they created weapons out of Phoenix Person's, biomechanical suit, and we've gotten used to the ways that Rick has modified himself to get out of a jam, but the fact that he's got like an iron cage around his heart that will deploy, the fact that he has all these mechanics like in his entrails, so that when they go spilling out, he's still able to function and even sip from the flask, and it just runs out on the floor. Yeah, but some of the visual style in that, the way that they would, one would take a hit and then it would kind of cut, and all the colors would be really exaggerated, and you'd see almost like an X-ray type thing. Yeah, just really cool stuff.
I wanted to mention that, and Welsh Girl in the stream, she just mentioned that too. I love the Mortal Kombat references during the fight. You may not have played a Mortal Kombat game in the last 20 years.
I think I play Injustice, right? Isn't that like the DC version?
Yeah, it's similar, but yeah, I mean,
it's not a huge fighting games guy.
It's made by the same people.
I'm a button masher at heart.
But I think even in Injustice, they had those scenes, like the special moves where if you hit people a certain way, then it would go into like the X-ray to see what is happening to their bones.
See the bones crack and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just I just had a conversation because they are coming out. They came out with DLC for Mortal Kombat 11 to bring RoboCop and Terminator into the mix, and I had actually talked to Brian Newton about that stuff on the side. Just be like, it's badass to have RoboCop, but they have those scenes where it's the X-ray and then the Terminator like breaking RoboCop's face in. It's great. It's great.
It's good stuff. It coming up in the chat. Sire Dark mentions it. I wanted to ask you this as well. Did you think during that fight, even for a moment, that Rick might die?
I did. I was expecting him to die.
Not necessarily a permanent death.
No. Of course not.
His name's in the title. But I definitely had that sense that like he might not make it out of this fight.
Yeah. Much in the same way that Rick Die, Rick Pete happened, you would end up in the dimension where he's a fascist shrimp. It would probably could have happened. But yeah, I thought he could die in that moment, and what he lost. So he may have died. He probably could have gotten killed in that moment, and then come back immediately, whatever. But he still would have lost. That would have been like the first time that we've like actually seen him lose, and it not be his plan to lose.
Yeah.
And there's 2 episodes in a row where really he was gonna lose. He was about to bite the bullet, so to speak. Yeah. And then he gets saved either by Summer and Morty or two Beths.
It's interesting. Like I think about certain like superhero movies. I tend to gravitate more toward the Marvel characters than like the DC movies. And in part, one of the things that I seem to justify that in is the Supermans, some of those characters that seem almost like unbeatable. They're so powerful. It seems like to do anything to them, you have to be just like larger than life. These huge, equally powerful things. And really, they've built Rick up to such a level in many of these seasons where Rick like cannot be beat. And it was really interesting in these last couple episodes to see a version of Rick that isn't necessarily going to win on his own and really does need his family and those people around him to help him succeed. And I think that really redeems Rick as a character and as an interesting person to watch, that he's not always going to figure it out for himself, but that he can, maybe it may take him a while, but maybe he'll learn to rely on others or not always think that he's just going to be able to take care of business by himself.
Yeah. In there's obviously hints of that, right? Even him telling Beth that he had a hero phase too, knowing that he had a close friendship with Birdperson and Squanchy. Gearhead was there, but he doesn't really count. But he had those friends that they were the Battle of Blood Hill or whatever it was.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Way back when against the Gromphamites, they were together, and whatever. Maybe they'll never get into that backstory, and they don't necessarily need to. But there's that sense that whatever happened to him has turned him into like him forgetting that he needs those people. Yeah. And it's all a mask.
It is.
It's a different version of him. Like maybe this is a clone.
New theories popping out on this episode. Couple of other points to get to. The brother and sister, the Luke and Leia of this episode, Morty and Summer, starting out fighting siblings, then coming together. The belt brings them together. They have their own arc What was the quote? Like, we don't need a belt. Working together is our belt.
Yeah. Working together is our belt.
I'm gonna whistle. I'm so happy. Yeah. I don't know. I think it could be a throwaway, but it might be neat to see Morty and Summer bond a little bit over this, and maybe see a version, even if just for a season, of like Morty and Summer being buddies that like, want to go on adventures together, or team up to go, solve the mystery of the masked magician, with Scoob and Shaggy or whatever they're doing. I don't know.
Oh yeah, with Selena Gomez and Zac Efron.
Yeah.
Whoever's doing the voices now instead of, Shaggy.
Yeah. Some dude.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that, or do you think it was just an
that
episode arc and that's it?
That's pretty straightforward. What I like is that those mini arcs came together. Theirs and Jerry's all came together to serve the greater purpose of the story. Talk about it multiple times throughout the podcast. 100 episodes, but when they have the A story and the B story, and they don't really tie together all that well, they just very loosely tied together just to wrap up the end of the episode. That's all fine and dandy. But when they actually have things that tie into the main narrative and serve a purpose, much like classic Simpsons episodes where you introduce things at the very start and then it makes sense where there's a logical conclusion at the end of it.
You mean like Jerry building a sock puppet at the beginning of an episode? This
Yes.
his puppet arc was perfect. The best arc of the episode.
The best arc. That was when I saw in like the pre-episode stuff before it actually aired, and I saw the sock puppet, and I've got my sock puppet Dipper from Gravity Falls that I take to Comic Cons with me sometimes. And I'm like, oh, we had no hints about this when we started our Muppet Challenge at the beginning of April.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
how randomly perfect was that we ended up doing that.
Yeah, and the way that it paid off with Tammy at the end, I thought it was great. I thought it was a great sequence of her just like talking to and with Jerry's version of Tammy's voice, trying to seduce Birdperson over to distract from what he was doing. I don't know. I thought it was great. I thought it was terrific.
By far, the part that makes me crack up all three times that I've watched the episode is Jerry's impression of Tammy.
Yeah, that's great.
Get your hollow boned head over here.
Well, speaking of things that have cracked us up in this episode, it's probably time for us to get into some of our favorite bits, and there were a lot of them. I'm going to be honest, I held some back because I didn't want this episode to be any longer than it had to be. But there's a lot of great stuff in this episode.
There is. First and foremost, I really want to say, this isn't a comedy moment, but I love that they brought Mike Mandel back for that brief cameo during Jerry's garbage truck stuff. Just good to see.
Yeah, it was great. Him and his dog there on the street. A great way to honor him and his life and the work that he did on the show. And I thought that was great.
Bookend this season in that way.
Yeah.
Speaking of garbage truck Jerry.
Garbage truck Jerry.
Invisible garbage truck Jerry. It's a new franchise.
We actually got a preview of the merchandise for Invisible Garbage Truck Jerry. Here, let me just.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. It's pretty good. Well, I know.
I almost dropped it.
Prototype.
Yeah. I lost it twice before the episode. So
for the podcast listeners who don't see the live video, Travis was holding it up. Looks really good. Clear. It looks fairly lightweight, right?
Yeah. To see all the details, head over to youtube.com/apathetic enthusiasm. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
That's right. That's right. What do you got here? Favorite bits? while it's
One of the things I loved was Jerry's insistence that he just says "Hey," and that's all that he can do when Beth gets kicked in the stomach. Hey, and then he gets hit, or
That's
you
all
know
I
they're
can
to the point where as they're flying in the spaceship and like Beth gets insulted or whatever, he's just like, "Hey." like he's owning it. Like, that's my move. I just say "Hey."
So good. During that same little clip, you wrote this down. I laughed at it because Chelsea, my wife, she watches the Great British Bake Off.
Great British Baking Show. Don't get it twisted. I've watched
Sorry.
several seasons on Netflix myself, because I'm a basic bee. And yeah, no, it's great. It's great.
Yeah, no, I can tell you from California because we say things like, no, yeah.
Not yeah,
Or,
not yeah,
yeah.
bruh, yeah, totes.
T gives British people prizes for bacons. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great line. The when the two Beths are fighting their way through this Death Star, for lack of a better name, and one of the Beths suggests, "Hey, maybe we could do like a Parent Trap," and the other says, "So long as you're referring to the Lindsay Lohan one." This cracked me up, especially because my wife loves the Parent Trap, the original version of the Parent Trap. It was one of her favorite movies as a kid, and she refuses to watch the Lindsay Lohan version of the Parent Trap.
Really?
And I give her such a hard time for it. I always make sure to bring that up whenever the Parent Trap comes up in conversations, so that other friends and now podcast listeners know that my wife will not watch that version of the Parent Trap. She's come close to breaking, and it's on Disney Plus. Who knows? Maybe if quarantine goes on long enough, we'll make it happen. But yeah, that just cracked me up. They were specific to the Lindsay Lohan one.
It's a lot like me in A Christmas Story. I own it on DVD and I still have never seen it. I want to ask you a thing on the Parent Trap, right? After they say the Lindsay Lohan one, and she says "naturally," is that a reference to the Parent Trap? Is that a line that she says in that movie?
I think it might be, like, in the Parent Trap movies, it's played by the same actress, right? But one of them always has like a different accent, right? In part so that you can tell them apart. And like in the original one, one's from Boston and she speaks with a very proper accent. The other one's from, the Napa Valley or whatever in California, and she's a surfer, bruh. But yeah, so I'm pretty sure that is a reference to one of their voices.
Okay.
In the Parent Trap.
All right. Well, this isn't a funny one necessarily. Well, yeah, it's not a funny one necessarily. There's two little bits. Speaking of movie references, the first my wife Chelsea mentioned, immediately caught it, and I didn't catch it. It's when the two Gronfalmites are like, "Are you embarrassed of me? I'm embarrassed of them." Oh, and then well, that's from the movie Real Genius with Val Kilmer, from way back in the 80s. And she immediately recognized that line, which is crazy to me.
Props to Chelsea for that poll, because
yeah.
I loved that scene just for the fact that it was like the way that they humanize the Gronfalmites, and like they're just in there, like, guarding a door, having a conversation about why they won't be invited over to the parents' house, and then boom, they're destroyed in an explosion. Like the way that they add those moments in right before the senseless violence is a great
Stand your ground, man. You'll be heroes. I think that's by the ship. And then the other movie reference, which I caught right away, well, maybe the second time I watched it, was when Birdperson is about to finish Rick off the first time, and Rick says something along the lines of, "This isn't imagined how I would be killed. You're not this isn't Venice, and you're not a dwarf in a raincoat." And it seems like such a random line, but it is from a movie called Don't Look Now, starring the great Donald Sutherland. It's a psychological psychic horror film from the 70s, and the great thing about this movie is it involves twin sisters who tell Donald Sutherland that about death. Like the movie is about Sutherland, his wife. They go to Venice because their child has died, and these older sisters tell them like give them like psychic visions about things. And at the very end of the movie, by the way, there's this like kind of side story about the serial killer killing a bunch of people in Venice, and Donald Sutherland keeps seeing what looks to be his son in a raincoat, walking through Venice. So eventually he goes to find he sees the little red coat walking through the city, walks up and turns the kid around, and it's not a kid, it's actually a little person.
A little person, yeah.
And that little person then kills Donald Sutherland with a meat cleaver, and that's the movie. It's a great movie. Go check it out.
What an obscure pull and reference for Rick and Morty. It's great. I love the detail in that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's one of my favorite bits, Travis.
Other things in this episode that we liked, the number of Harmon voices in this. I'm pretty sure he voices like 3 or 4 characters throughout this episode. I think he voices the Gronflemite at the beginning that can't remember Beth's name. The half robot, half alien doctor who takes pills to make himself think that he's a good doctor. That character alone I loved. But there's several.
When he takes the pills to make him think he's a good doctor, his little leg twitches in the spacesuit.
So good.
My new detail. Great.
Other things you wrote the more like dead alert. I added the fact that he's like, wait, I've got more. I wrote some stuff down in my notes app. I love all of the references to iPhone or iOS apps that Rick somehow uses. I would expect him to be more of an Android guy, but it cracks me up that he uses it in his notes app.
Yeah, he only pretends to be nonconformist. Really, he likes the ease of use in the iOS and the conformity that provides the stability of system. And last thing, Pokeballs. That Space Beth and Rick fight with Pokeballs briefly.
Very briefly, but it was great to see Rick just nonchalantly like grab one and throw it out. Like, yeah, all right, deal with that.
Yeah. All right. So I think. Oh, I do have one last one that's way back up on the top. When Tammy breaks into Dr. Wong's office and Beth yells out, "Tammy!" and Jerri goes, "Tanya, Tamia."
Tamia. Good mention here by D Squeeze in the Twitch chat. When Rick is talking about how if you're both good, I'll take you to McDonald's, and then they still pull a gun on him, and he's like, Wendy's. Wendy's is better. We like Wendy's. I think they gave us money or something, which is hilarious because we've been watching that same Wendy's breakfast commercial all 5 episodes of this part of the season. Watch out for that chicken honey biscuit. He's a bruiser. Yeah.
Last little note, last shout out to Wrangler jeans. The commentary about Wrangler jeans and why the laser doesn't penetrate them.
Hey, you're talking about it, aren't you?
It's a perfect takedown. Maybe about 4 months ago, well, actually 6 months ago, I watched War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise, and that's the one thing I was wondering as I was watching that movie was, if the tripods are killing people with lasers, why are their clothes still there? Like, is it like reverse? Is it like Terminator where like no organic material Yeah, I don't know. But then it makes things explode. I don't know. Why am I asking? Rick and Morty did a good job of calling their bullshit.
Well, those are a summary of our thoughts on this season finale of Rick and Morty. I'm sure there's a lot more to talk about. If you guys have further thoughts, comments, questions, things to discuss, make sure you hit us up over at Rick and Morty Pod on Twitter. Send us an email, rickandmortypodcast@gmail.com. We have things to talk about throughout the off season, and hopefully, and I'm quite confident, it will not be a 2-year off season. I'm going out on a limb and saying, I am hopeful that we will have more Rick and Morty in 2020.
Make your bets now.
Yeah, we'll start the betting pool over on the website or something. It's time for our final segment on the podcast. We like to call it listener suggestions and short outs. Many of you reaching out and letting us know your thoughts. So thank you to everyone that's done that. Some of the highlights here, Brandon. What do we got from Twitter?
Over on Twitter, @_Sophia Mateen, I just discovered you guys for season 4, and I'm obsessed. Keep it up. The commentary is too good. 2 hands clapping, smiling face with smiling eyes, smiling face with smiling eyes. Did you put those things in there?
No, I didn't. I think that maybe when you copied the tweet into our Google Doc, it spelled out the emojis.
It takes away what it actually looks like and just describes it. That's great.
Yeah.
Good.
But thank you for the emojis. We got an email from Tristan. I had listened to the first few episodes of your show, and I just love how you guys are just waiting for season 3, even though season 4 is already out. It's a really good show, and I enjoy listening to you guys. Yeah. So if you start listening to this show at the beginning, we started the show 100 episodes ago in the midst of one of those lengthy breaks, waiting, hoping that season 3 was just around the corner. And and then we got season 3, and then there's a whole lot of episodes between seasons, but we had a couple of seasons to catch up on as well. But thank you for going back and listening to those episodes. I am always flattered when people go back and tell me they're listening from the beginning, they're listening to all of them. I appreciate that so much, and thank you guys, the ones that are going back and binge listening all of our shenanigans for now 100 times. It's just amazing. So thank you Tristan for the email.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Reviews over on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, from PB Cooks. I love tuning into the show each week. I've started to adjust my viewing schedule so that I can listen right after the episode ends to hear y'all's commentary. The banter on top of the hot takes really cements it as one of my all-time favorite podcasts. Ooh-wee!
That's a great ooh-wee there, Brandon. That is commitment. The fact that you alter your viewing schedule for this podcast. I'm glad we don't wait 3 days to put the show out.
Sorry it takes this long.
Yeah.
We owe you.
But we appreciate it, and thank you so much for the review. Finally, here in the live chat, we've had a ton of people commenting along as we have discussed this episode. But one that stood out from Welsh Girl over on YouTube, talking about the end of this episode, that the ending was so sad. I feel bad for Rick. Yes, I know he's a lot of things, including being a bad dad, but at the end of the day, he's still a human dealing with his own demons. We didn't really talk about the end of this episode, but very somber notes at the end. The self-realization of what a bad dad he has been throughout his life, and his hope that being a good friend is, it was great to see that he brought Birdperson back with him. There's gonna be some growth and some work there, but it was cool to see that. But his sort of loneliness, sitting alone in the garage, it's sad, and it's something we've seen throughout this season. Him on the toilet with all of the holograms mocking him and all of these other things. His loneliness was definitely a theme in this season, and I think we'll probably discuss that a lot more in the season recap. But yeah, it's a sad moment for Rick.
Yeah, this episode has echoes of the Pickle Rick episode, and I think if you were to watch those two back to back, especially with the Dr. Wong, and then seeing how he deals with Beth in that in the Pickle Rick episode compared to now, like the end of Pickle Rick, he's like, oh, you want to go get a drink? And she's like, yeah. Avoiding problems. At the very beginning of this episode, he asked her to go get a drink. I think there are ties there that if I actually spent more than 5 minutes thinking about it, or even more than 20 seconds thinking about it, there could be some really good insight there. I don't have it, but I'm just saying
it's there. We'll work on it this week, and maybe we'll come up with something.
Maybe.
No promises. No promises.
Anyways, I want to say we don't have anything else. This is the last thing I want to say before we end this episode is everybody who is listening, whether you're on Twitch, YouTube, Apple Podcast, Podchaser, pod.com/RSS,
Spotify. I know there's some Spotify listeners out there.
Wherever, Roku. Watch us on Roku. Wherever you are, you're listening.
If you get your cousin to record it onto a compact disc and then he has to send it through the U.S. Postal Service to your other cousin, who then records it on a cassette tape, and then you listen to it on your Walkman. We see you, we hear you, we appreciate you.
If you and your friends are in a jail yard and you are tarring the roof of Shawshank Prison, and one of your friends breaks into the commissioner's office or whatever and puts on a record of one of our episodes, we just want you to know that we appreciate you, and we do this because you listen, and because we love you. I love you, and I will leave my wife and my family. You just say the word. Travis,
you are his Gary. You're just know that. Yeah, we appreciate all of you. I'm not leaving my family for you. That's not happening. But I love you too. And thank you everybody that the ones that we shorted out, the ones that we didn't get to mention. We appreciate everything that you guys send in and the comments and the encouragement. You guys are amazing. We couldn't do it without you. We really couldn't. So thank you so much for listening. If you're only listening on audio, this is goodbye. We'll see you next week for another episode. We're gonna go and do the live stream only portion of the post show, if you will. Little sneak, a little hint. If you go to our YouTube channel, you can just watch the post show. Just fast forward like an hour and 15 minutes, and then you'll see the post show on this episode. But thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm Travis.
And I'm Brandon, and thank you so much. Goodbye. Forks in a Timeline. Discount code Rick and Morty.
That one was free, Brandon. You gave him that one for free.
I owed him big time.
It was so fun watching you guys in the comments as we ran that ad, and especially like Sire Dark like being proud of us for having an actual advertiser. It's good stuff. What's going on, guys? It's just you and me now. It's just Brandon, and me and you here hanging out. We can talk more about the episode. We can talk about anything else. How you doing? How you holding up? What are your thoughts? What did we miss? What did you love about the episode? Is there anything you guys didn't like about the episode?
Yeah. Tell us. Oh, by the way, I've been saving this the entire time. Congratulations to 100 episodes. I know you did the shot at the beginning.
I did it at the beginning. I needed the lubrication.
All right.
This is my shot.
This is vodka. Yeah, it's hot now because
what kind of vodka? Is
what kind
it
what kind is
Dan?
there?
Is it Dan's Kettle One?
No, I'm not fancy, man.
Have I shown you?
Also, like,
Do
great
you have
food.
one of these? Do you have one of these shot glasses?
I don't have one of those. I was thinking, like, you know what? We need to get some podcast shot glasses.
Some podcast shot glass.
It's disgusting. It's hot.
Yeah, if I choose to do a shot, it's typically not just vodka. Garbage truck Jerry was a win for sure. That was great at the end. I like how it was his living out his dream until he had to get gas, and then he didn't, and then he just walked away.
Yeah. I'm wondering. Oh, there you are. Okay. I recorded the music in Reaper. What we used to record, my file only goes up to about an hour and some change, and then it starts a new recording. And it didn't look like it recorded some of the music at the end, but it did. I just had to fix it.
Just fix it. Just a little fix. Not a big deal. Yeah. I'm just gonna render my audio real quick while we're chatting. Guys, it's July. No, it's June. It's June.
It's June.
What year is this? What year is this? Yeah, we're already into June.
How much time do you think Space Beth is going to get next season?
D-Squeeze, you already placed your order for Forks in the Timeline. This guy, the real MVP.
Oh my gosh,
man.
Oh my god. Andrea is going to be so happy about this. I'm gonna send her an email right now. Look, our very first customer, treat him with respect.
You sent him a nice note in that package.
you tell him that you love him and that you will leave your family for his. I don't know why that's my ultimatum for everything tonight. It's a beer. It's because I drank this. Tropy Cannon Tangerine IPA.
It's like Fruit Loops. Cyberdark asking, how many minutes of screen time do you think Space Beth gets next season?
I think she's gonna get at least a couple minutes of screen time. I think that I don't know if this is true, but I would like to see an actual Parent Trap swap, or where they get to share each other's lives, right? And then she's like, I'm gonna go. Do you want to go fight the Federation, the new Federation? I'm like, yeah. Can you make what is it, dinosaur pancakes or whatever it is for Jerri?
Dinosaur pasta. It's the kind he likes. So good. So many one-liners in this one that were really great. Yeah, I think that Space Beth gets some solid time. I think that she I say that, but how much time do Beths usually get, right? They're only on screen for maybe half an episode if they're in like the A plot. So, but I think that there's unique ways that they can team up. The two Beths can do something together, and kind of, whether it's a parenting issue or whether, Space Beth with Rick goes out on an adventure. I think that there's some story concepts there that could be really interesting. I kind of put Space Beth in this in between Beth and Summer, if you have that like version of Summer who like the Mad Max, like, just post divorce Summer, who like is more edgy. This Beth knows a lot more about the universe and what is out there. So there's an interesting dynamic there between Rick and that character that I really hope they don't throw away. The fact that they went through the effort of making her and developing that character and having it arc through an entire season. Yeah, I don't know. I think I hope she gets some screen time. I hope they don't just send her away in the first episode and then she just pops in every once in a while. I could definitely see her going off and being gone at times, but
Yeah.
much like we talked about, during season 3, Jerri was gone and, living on his own, and they played with a lot of ideas of how Beth would be as a single parent, what it would be like for Morty and Summer, going from Beth's house to Jerri's house and like what it would be like in a situation where they were apart. And then at the end of that season, okay, we bring them back together and even call out, yeah, and everything's good now and we're going to have a healthy relationship. And really that pretty much was the case throughout season 4, where the marital issues that Beth and Jerri had, sort of what was the core of their relationship in the first 2 seasons, were not a big deal. This Beth was resolved that she loves Jerri. Yeah, he's not the greatest guy. He's not the most competent, but she's with him. Maybe take a shower because I can smell your balls from here. But and so
he's I resident Jerri apologist again. It's not that he's a bad guy. He's incompetent sometimes. Like he has good flashes of dumb brilliance.
yeah, with the
And
puppet.
yeah, and again, going back to what we were saying during the show, she is still Beth, and she still loves him, even though she thinks he's an idiot sometimes. And so even Space Beth, who's gone away, she still loves her kids. She still loves Jerri, but she wanted something else. Mentioning so Welsh Girl over on YouTube asks, "Do you think Rick will be able to redeem himself?" And
Is he a redeemable character?
I think he is. If not all the bullshit he's pulled with incepting Morty again during the heist episode, or the vat of acid, all these kinds of shitty things that he's doing as a person. Yeah, those are all really fucked up toxic things that he's doing. But the show consistently shows the audience sides of him that it doesn't show the characters diegetically, and that's to say Beth, Summer, Morty, Jerri, they don't see that side of Rick when he's inside his garage depressed. We as the audience see that. They're the writers, the directors, they're showing us that piece of him, and because we have knowledge that the other characters in the show don't have, that sets it up to make him sympathetic to us and gives us that, like, the maybe naive or hope that he is redeemable at some point in time. And he was a hero. He went through a hero phase, and whatever that catalyst for changing his worldview, that may play a piece in that redemption.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think we're gonna see that redemption for a long time, especially with the number of episodes on order.
I agree.
But I think they're
episodes, the premiere and finale. Those are the only 2 serial episodes you get in the season.
Yeah. Everything else is one-offs and madcap adventures. But yeah, I do think we're gonna continue to see Rick develop and change and come to terms with who he's been as a person. And I would like to see him change and sort of account for what he's done. And I think he's already on that path, right? The fact that he came back from wherever he was at the beginning of the series to live with his daughter and grandkids, I don't think the premise of the show is ever like Rick's incapable of living on his own. Like he certainly could. He's choosing to be with the family. And so I think that alone is insight into his attempts to be a better person and restore those relationships. And even his regret in that Mindbender or Mindblowers clip, realizing like, man, I am the worst. Like looking back at what he had done, something that was painful enough that he was like, I'm just going to remove that so I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to know, right? I don't have to know which Beth is which. Is a moment of reflection for him where he's like, yeah, no, I am a bad guy. And him sitting there and staring at the garage floor is maybe a time where he's reflecting on that and maybe processing what that looks like for him going forward.
Exactly. He, after he watches his mind blower, he walks towards the garage door, and instead of going to try to connect with his family or talk shit or go on an adventure with Morty or do whatever he was going to do, sit on the couch and watch TV. Instead of doing that, he chose to sit back in his garage, hang his head, and do whatever he was going to do at that moment. And again, it's a show, and we are the audience watching this piece of him, and that the whole concept of an unreliable narrator, we're not seeing what other people are seeing him as in that moment. We are seeing something that is him alone by himself. That is a genuine moment for us, the audience. Now they can undercut that much in the same way they did at the end of season 2 going into season 3, where he is arrested and he goes to prison, and then the April Fool's happens, and then it's like, just kidding, this is my plan all along. It's just,
It's
more genuine than that.
I think we'll continue to see those moments with Rick, but it's gonna be a slow burn. It's gonna happen gradually. Will we get more info into Rick's past in season 5? There's always the potential for that, I think. Having Space Beth in the picture, I think, opens up the possibility for that more. Having Birdperson back opens up the possibility for that more. I'm sure Space Beth heard some stories about Rick Sanchez out in the galaxy. I'm sure Birdperson has a lot of stories if he becomes a reoccurring character again. Yeah, definite glimpse being possible.
Squanch. K. Michelle.
Yeah. I want Squanchy back, but there's he's the one that's missing. He hasn't come back, but maybe he paid the ultimate price for. Also, the line when he shoots Tammy and he's like, "You made me go to a wedding." Oh, and you killed my best friend, or you took my best friend. Like I should have opened with that. Yeah, the Solar Opposites episode reviews probably not next week. We still gotta knock out season recap and take care of clean up some of that stuff and celebrate 100 episodes in the books.
That's right.
But yeah, we could do a spinoff episode of Solar Opposites live from the wall and look back at those episodes. That would be fun.
I got to change the music up a little bit.
Get a new graphic in here.
I got time now. Yeah. Definitely.
We're gonna do some apathetic enthusiasms too. I know you guys have been missing those.
Oh, I forgot about those. Oh my god, it's crazy when we switch to full-time Rick and Morty and we don't do any apathetic enthusiasms.
You guys remember this? Do you remember what this looks like? Huh?
We refer to it.
Yeah, I know you guys miss it. I don't know if you miss it at all. I love those episodes. So.
Based off of our download numbers, not many people do it.
Yeah, you guys like this a lot more. But tell your friends about
Tell your friends.
Apathetic
Tell your friends.
Enthusiasm.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this, Travis. The Twilight Zone podcast.
You mean submitted for your approval? Twilight Zone
Yeah.
podcast?
Yeah, I stopped doing it for so long,
Yeah.
and I need to finish that up. I'm in season 3. No, I'm only in season 2. God, I'm so far behind. No, am I in season 2? I don't know where I am. That's how long it's been. But I need to finish it up. And I used to, part of that was like getting guests and stuff like that. That was like kind of slowing me down. I think what I just need to do is just find like not limit myself, not constrain myself to having one guest a season or whatever. Just be like, no, go back to basics. Just grab people I know, podcasters, friends, spouse, and do the thing. So I'm gonna get back into it. I'm slightly motivated.
Good. We'll see how long that motivation carries you through season 2.
Not past tonight.
Okay.
Sorry.
Good. Sayardar asking any AE topics lined up that you've been burning to get to, and you been watching anything, listening to anything, playing anything?
We have mini commentary whenever we've done these episodes. I'm like, yeah, we're doing this, doing that. Space Force is out. I haven't watched it. We talked about what we did in the shadows. Minecraft Dungeons is out.
We need to try and figure out if we can stream some of that, because I haven't played it at all yet. But I want to see if that's worth streaming and playing some of that.
Yeah, Minecraft Dungeons. Rick and Morty was out.
Yeah, I heard about that. I watched the show on Apple TV Plus or whatever their streaming platform's called. It's Defending Jacob. It's a 10 episode sort of like crime drama with Captain America in the leading role. What's his name? Chris Hemsworth? No, Chris Evans. Chris Evans. Yeah. And yeah, that was an interesting show. They like to release their episodes week to week, so they just released the 10th episode this last week. So if you want to go out and binge watch the entire thing, now's the time. But that was interesting. I also watched.
I've watched a couple of other things, and I can't think of. Sonic the Hedgehog. We didn't talk about Sonic the Hedgehog.
No, not officially.
Want to talk about that?
I watched The Last Dance, that the Bulls Michael Jordan documentary.
That's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. We talk about more of my gardening and how I'm fighting white flies and spider mites.
Yeah, all the things that you've come to love on Apathetic Enthusiasm.
I figured out what white flies and spider mites were, because the little fuckers were just like sucking the blood out of my plants. I'm like, what's going on with my plants? What is this little cute little white fly? Oh, it's called a white fly, and it sucks the blood out of my fucking plants. Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for a second.
Just eats the chlorophyll. Let's make it official. Here, hold on. We're swapping over. All right, guys. Let's talk about white flies and
white flies eating through my plants, eating tomato plants now. My brother, by the way, everybody who's here. Car crashes and smashes is in the house. What's up? That's my brother Tim Cruise. Oh yeah, yo. Oh, my older brother from the same mother, few years removed from me. Did you know, Travis? I don't know if you knew this, but my brother Tim is my blood brother.
Brothers.
In the sense that we have the same father and the same mother. But he always told me I was adopted as a kid, and it was a real dick move, right? Him and my uncle Daniel, like they told me I was adopted. They were real assholes. I love them for it. You know, they really.
It's good fun. Everybody, we laugh, and I cry myself to sleep at night in the unsure darkness of whether or not my real parents ever loved me.
Yeah. So go follow Car Crashes and Smashes, my brother's YouTube channel. Oh, by the way, so Tim hit me up, Car Crashes and Smashes, and he said to me earlier, he sent me a Facebook message. He's like, "Hey, I was looking at your YouTube videos for why you're not getting that many views," and
He's like, "You guys suck."
but then he didn't respond. He didn't follow it up with the second part of it. That's all he said. And then so like 5 hours later, I'm like,
And
yeah.
and he's like, no, I just noticed you aren't getting very many views. The reality is there's a lot of cleaning up on those videos that we record live and then just put out there that we don't do. And we just got to put in the work. We got to put in the work.
That's why I sent you the then Tim followed up with you don't tag your videos, which is actually absolutely true. And then so I just happened to see Emergency Awesome, who's a pretty big YouTuber. He has a fairly large following, and I looked at his description, and then I sent it to you and said, "This is what we're not doing." And
we violently agreed with each other. We're like, "Yep, that is exactly what we're not doing."
Yeah,
and we're aware of it, and to our own detriment. And
yeah.
But
all that's to say, Tim, if you want to tag our videos for us,
if Car Crashes and Smashes wants to be our YouTube intern, hit us up. It can be your repentance for telling Brandon he was adopted his whole life.
That's okay. I was addicted to him too. I kicked him in the balls one time.
Grazed him. You're gonna feel that in 10 minutes.
And then when he was on the ground screaming, he's screaming, my balls. I kicked him in the balls one more time just to teach him a lesson. And my dad sat on the couch laughing, saying, "Don't do that, Brandon," but still just cracking up. So I mean, I got my repentance. No, that's not my repentance. I got my revenge.
Revenge, yeah. My balls. Yep. The classic AE content you guys know and love right here. Man, yeah. All right. I don't know. How much longer do you want to keep this party going? Do we want to? Is there anything else we want to do?
And what else are we doing other than me finding a new virtual background?
Somebody on Twitter is saying that the OG Parent Trap is the only Parent Trap.
Oh, wow. Really agreeing with Ashina on that.
Yeah, I was checking to make sure that wasn't like somebody I knew. Yeah, I guess they would be friends with my wife if they knew. Yeah, I don't know. When is Rick and Morty coming back on? Your guess is as good as mine.
It is actually as good as his. Yeah. Unless it's like tomorrow, in which case, nope. Yeah, your guess is really not. It's pretty.
It's gonna be on a Sunday. I'm going out on a limb, and I'm guessing it's gonna be on a Sunday.
Sunday night.
So let's chart all of the Sundays for the next year.
I do want to give a real quick PSA. Do not download Wondery's Inside Jaws. Okay, they still owe us $30, and that I'm not gonna let it go, because
we're holding on to it. We're holding that grudge.
Every 6 months or so, I send them another email and I say, "Hey, by the way, our episode is still up."
Why is it up?
Because I don't know. Maybe did I take it down? Maybe I did take it.
You should. If you haven't, you should.
Yeah, we still have the stats for it. Anyways, God, come on, Wondery.
Yeah. Yeah, they're nothing compared to the good folks at Forks in the Timeline who pay in advance.
Yeah, Forks in the Timeline. By the way, I know D Squeeze, you just bought that game, which is fantastic. I can't wait to tell our sponsors that. But yeah, it's what this might go into like an AE topic, I think, because we talked about like Cards Against Humanity and Apples to Apples, those types of games that you are given the answer to be funny.
Yeah.
And this has been my critique of those games for the longest time is it doesn't foster the like somebody to be funny or come up with something creative to be funny. It's just
let's be blunt, Brandon. You don't like Cards Against Humanity because it makes unfunny people think they're funny.
Yeah. I think that's the correct quote.
To an extent, that's basically where you're at. Yeah.
I've said that. Yeah. No shame. No shame. It makes unfunny people think that they're funny because they're like, I get to be inappropriate. Ooh, look at me! I get to be inappropriate and say inappropriate stuff. But they're not really saying it. It's not their words. It's the words of somebody else who was trying to be funny in their own way. What Force in a Timeline does, what I like is, it gives the questions, it gives the forks, the alternate universes, and then you have to come up with that answer, and it forces you to think about it, and because of that, it gives a little bit more freedom to have a unique game, and changes, right? Like,
Yeah.
it won't. It's not going to be like this. You're not going to see the same answers the next time you play, because it's not going to be like, fuck the dead cat.
Somebody got that card again.
Yeah.
I have been playing a new card-based board game with the family. I picked up 5 Minute Dungeon like a week or two ago. Not a sponsor. But yeah, it's it has like 5 decks of cards, and there are 5 different character types. You can and each character type actually has 2 options. So you can be like a wizard or a sorcerer. You can be a gladiator or like a warrior or something. There's the paladin and anyway, all these different types of characters. But then you have all these door cards, right? And you stack those on top of a dungeon boss. And so the bosses require a different number, increasingly higher number of cards to beat them. And it's a cooperative game. You have 5 minutes. They have an app that goes with it, and it's a 5-minute timer. And within 5 minutes, you have to match all of these cards against these door cards to try and get through them. So like matching symbols like swords and arrows and stuff like that. The art on the game is really great, and it's fun to kind of like have that like kind of high stress sort of like speed based game, but everybody's playing collaboratively trying to defeat these door cards and eventually the boss monster or whatever. But we play D&D for years now, and it's something that I was like, I'm gonna get this game. I know I'm gonna like it. Maybe I can convince some of my family to play it, but like my 2 youngest kids are obsessed with it, and they're constantly asking to play it. So yeah, and like my youngest is 8, so it's a good family time game, and it's each round is 5 minutes. So if you only have a little bit of time to play, you can kind of get in and out real quick, and it's fun.
Yeah, I like In and Out. I'm wearing an In and Out.
In and Out.
That's what it's all about.
That's what a podcast is all about. Are the adventures with Morty going to be changed or compromised now that the family seems to hate and not need Rick? I think that assessment is maybe a little bit too far. I don't think they hate Rick, at least not any more than they ever did in the past.
Yeah.
The family dynamic has changed, but I still think Morty is going to be in on adventures with Rick. If you look at the finale of season 3, Rick wasn't well liked at the end of that season either, and we jump right back in season 4 with the family going back on adventures. So I think that core mechanic of the show with Rick and Morty going on adventures is still going to play out.
Yeah, I think so. You know, it's if they compromise, no. I mean, maybe they'll change, but I don't. It'll probably be tinged with as much cynicism as there has always been. There's part of me that would love to see like a fan edit with just the serialized portions of the show so far, to see, you know, the parts that actually make that actually have the character development within them. Because I think what you would see is that there's a lot that is just throwaway gags or just jokes. I mentioned that actually, a coworker of mine who's never watched an episode of Rick and Morty, he was like, "What episodes of the podcast do you recommend I listen to?" Like, I don't know, watch an episode of Rick and Morty first, but start with either 33 or 46, I think, which is either Ridley or Ryan Elder. So he listened to the the Ridley episode, and he's talking to me today about it, and I remember Ridley bringing up that sometimes they didn't think about the logical chains that go throughout the series. Sometimes a joke is just a joke, and so some of that cynicism that the family has on those adventures, it's just a chance to tell a gag.
Yeah. I think that's a benefit as a viewer if you don't take every single thing they say as canon per se. There's a lot in it. I didn't mention it in the show proper, but there are a lot of like fourth wall breaks in this episode, this finale, and I felt like it was just the right amount where they weren't telling us specifically, the viewers, like, hey, don't worry about what's happening. They weren't telling us how to enjoy the show, which is a critique that we had early on in this run of 5 episodes. But there was just like, you know, whether it's the Wendy's call out, whether it's Morty being like, hey, I killed those guys off screen. It just happened. Like, look, I killed them while you guys weren't looking. That kind of stuff. I think that's just the right or what was the other one? Like Morty has one right at the beginning of the episode too. I'll have to go back and look for it, but there were some real solid ones in this episode that it was fun referencing the fact that they're in a show, but also not telling us how to enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Also, what did you guys think about that song? What do you guys think about the Don't Look Back song at the end, featuring Kotomi and Ryan Elder? Kotomi is a Los Angeles-based composer, artist, and producer. So it had serious chaos type vibes, or like what's the song, the Evil Morty song?
Oh yeah. For the Damaged Coda.
Yeah. Definitely had that sort of tone to it, but it's a good original song. It's good. I listened to it a couple times. Like, I'm gonna sneak it into some playlists and see if people notice.
It's bop.
It's a bop.
It's a bop.
A bop.
You're almost 40, Travis.
Yeah. Eventually, I'm right behind you. All right, guys. We're nearing 10 o'clock in the Central Time Zone, 11 on the East Coast.
Oh yeah.
We've got several folks hanging out with us here in the Twitch stream. Some of you are out in YouTube land, but it's that time again, guys. It's raid time. If you guys haven't gone on a raid with us, this is how it works. We're gonna take all of you amazing viewers who have been supporting us throughout this episode, and we're gonna send you over to watch another streamer on Twitch. So if you have a streamer who you think we should be rating, maybe somebody else that you follow right now, let us know. Put their name over in the chat, and yeah, we're gonna send the whole crew over there to show some love and share a raid and with somebody else. So, look at that.
Looks like I'm an angel, Travis.
Oh, you're a peepee. You're a peepee. That's what you are.
God, I never knew I'd
you in my butt.
I never knew I'd love a green screen so much.
I always knew you'd love a green screen. That never.
Look at the Donna Summer. Why I forget the context of why I have a Donna Summer image.
Let's see. A1CETV. They are not live.
Got a doo-doo in my butt.
They were live 9 minutes ago, Sayonara.
Just missed.
Just missed them. Just missed them. Let's see if there's any other podcasts out there right now. Twitching it up. Another thing going on in my life is Animal Crossing fatigue is setting in.
You're now having that.
I've gotten in, checked some turnips, and it's who said Mercy Main? D Squeeze with the Overwatch.
Oh geez.
Have we talked? We haven't really talked about Overwatch. I went through an Overwatch phase, you guys. My mouse pad is an Overwatch mouse pad. And it's one of those ones that like you put your keyboard and mouse on. On Xbox, I was a Reaper main.
Hey, I've got an Overwatch mouse
but
pad.
On PC, I was rocking those supports. Turn it up.
Here's a kind of side note. I played Star Wars Battlefront 2 for a little bit. Started playing that a little bit more. Titanfall 2 played that a little bit. I know Star Wars Battlefront 2 is an old, it's an older game, but I had fun with it for a minute. That's boring, actually.
What are any desire to jump back in Apex, Brandon?
I would if I had a PC that would play it.
Oh yeah, I always forget that about you, that you don't have a PC that would play it.
Yeah. I talked about getting an external GPU to play games, but do I really need that? I'll just wait till my kid needs it. Amateur surgeon game. Yeah, my kid. That reminded me that my kid wanted the Five Nights at Freddy's VR game version of the game.
Yeah, no, that looks terrifying to me.
Yeah, no, it looks terrifying to me, and I know for a fact. Chelsea and we talked to him. And we're like, I don't think you're gonna want that game, dude. Like you're gonna get scared. And he's like, if I get scared, I'll just close my eyes. Like then you're not getting the game because that's the point of playing the game.
Yeah, yeah, it's that's sort of what it's all about is seeing it.
Yeah,
Minecraft Dungeons. Lots of people streaming dungeons on here. Interesting.
Yeah,
it's saturated. We're never gonna play it.
No, it's a. I won't say it's a fun game, but it is.
I won't say it's fun.
It's a mindless game. You don't have to think too much. But
I heard it was like Diablo Light.
Yes, wholeheartedly. If you, yeah. I mean that's 100% what the game is. Even the maps they're very loosely randomly generated. They're basically the same maps all the time. Random loot drops. It's fun. I've played it a lot, but I wouldn't. I played with my best friend Matt. Not you, my best friend, and he jumped into my game randomly, and was playing, and I was like level 20. He's level 1, and he's like, this game's okay. I played through the whole thing, and he's like, meh. I guess I could play that some. Let's play Red Dead instead.
Yeah, Red Dead's finally downloaded on my Xbox, so it only took like a week. But
Good.
all right, guys, what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump. Some of you have already jumped ship as I search for somebody to watch. But yeah, we'll go send you over to our friend from Geekade, Vestlord. We've rated this dude before. Tammy's back there in the background. Let's see. He's playing some old school games, so we'll go show him some love when we get over there. Say hi in the chat and cheer him on. And yeah, and that is it for this week. Thank you guys so much. If you're not following us on social media, what are you doing? But hopefully you're at least getting notifications for when we go live. Because I'm itching to stream some games, Brandon. So we'll have to figure out something to play. Maybe, I don't know, whatever it is. Red Dead, Dungeons, NBA 2K20, whatever it is.
By the way, Matt wants to play NBA 2K with us.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we can like get a team together and we could play online.
Don't throw me with a good time.
I would do that because I don't mind losing as much as some of my other best friends do.
Your other best friends. Okay. All right, guys. Yeah. We're going to go and say hi to Vestlord. Say hi to him for us. We'll be over there with you for a little bit. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for 100 episodes. And we'll see you next time. I'm Travis.
You asked for it. Here it is. It's a podcast.
I'm Brandon.
Oh. Yeah. And we're out. Raid is starting in 7 seconds. So, bye. See ya.
Bye.
And we're rating. And when we're rating, that means if you're watching on YouTube, it's just us now. All of those 3 people that were watching us over on Twitch are now over in the Vestlord channel. And it's just the 2 of you. You think he logged out? Did he really jump off? What a dude.
Who's that?
Vestlord.
Oh, he just left.
He just stopped streaming.
Come on, Dean. Dean.
Well, we tried. But now we're done. So we'll see you guys later. Thank you guys.
Original Parent Trap. That's what I'm.
What about the original Parent Trap?
Who's in the original Parent Trap? Was it Jodie Foster?
Haley Mills.
Who?
Is that her name?
So it wasn't Jodie Foster.
Yeah, Haley Mills.
Who is Haley Mills?
She's the girl that stars in the Parent Trap. She's also in, I think, Pollyanna.
I don't think this is the girl from the Parent Trap. And I'll show you.
What are you gonna get? The Parent Trap. All right, guys, we're done.
That is
her. That is her.
It's not the girl from the Parent Trap.
Yes, it is.
Look at her.
That's her. She's just way old.
I don't remember any old woman in the Parent Trap.
Man. All right, guys, we're gone. We'll see you guys later. We're gonna have this conversation by ourselves.